good morning and welcome to Rising. We are already having so much fun here. Lindsay got caught in the rain. You had a harrowing journey.
Is DC usually this rainy?
No, it's not particularly rainy.
I'm not a huge fan of this torrential downpour.
Yeah,
Since April, I've been coming back and forth, and I feel like it's rained probably like half of the time.
There was a lot of rain this summer, yeah.
Yeah, I'm over it.
Well,
skip to winter. I'm a December baby.
No, I don't like the cold.
Oh,
but,
come on, just come on.
Well, I'm in a good mood anyway because I'm feeling better, and I'm excited to get to today's show.
Yep.
Fascinating topics, including something very near and dear to my heart.
I know. When you combine these two topics, I knew you were going to go off. So, Robby, what's on your radar?
All right. Here we go. Google admitted earlier this week that its COVID-era censorship policies were enacted at the explicit behest of the Biden administration. Well. And the company now says it will allow any content creator that was silenced for this reason to return to YouTube, which is a massive win for free speech, as well as an acknowledgement that those of us who objected to the government bullying the tech companies were right all along. This new policy was announced in response to an inquiry by House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who asked Google for information about moderation decisions the company made during the Biden years. In response, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, said in a statement that, quote, senior Biden administration officials, including White House officials, conducted repeated and sustained outreach to Alphabet and pressed the company regarding certain user-generated content related to the COVID-19 pandemic that did not violate its policies. While the company continued to develop and enforce its policies independently, Biden administration officials continued to press the company to remove non-violative user-generated content, end quote. Alphabet's statement goes on to accuse the Biden administration of creating a, quote, political atmosphere that sought to influence the actions of platforms based on their concerns regarding misinformation. Alphabet also notes that it has already revised its election integrity policies, which had also led to the removal of content from YouTube. With this similar admission about the harms caused by the COVID policy, YouTube is now welcoming all creators terminated under the policies back to the platform. Come on in, the water's fine. Now, lest you think that means a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists, that's who's coming back, right? That's anybody who got kicked off. Well, consider this. Now, longtime viewers probably remember, but this channel, what you're watching right now, The Hill, was previously suspended for a week for allegedly breaking a rule that YouTube now admits was wrong. What am I talking about? Well, in March 2022, we were informed that we had violated an election integrity policy by posting allegedly false information about the 2020 election because we'd played video footage on this show, of Trump saying that the election was stolen. We didn't say the election was stolen. We didn't endorse that view. We just reported the fact that Trump had said it. Think how crazy that is. Under YouTube's previous policy, they couldn't distinguish, or were unwilling to distinguish, between Trump saying something and a news channel reporting that he had said something. Here was me and my co-hosts at the time, Ryan Grimm and Kim Iverson, talking about what had happened to us after we served our 1-week stint in timeout.
So last week, if you haven't read Robby's piece or my piece, we committed 2 crimes. One crime was posting video.
I think it was 3 crimes.
I only know of 2 crimes.
I think it was 3 because it was last year.
Oh, there was a crime a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, and then doing it again this year.
They posted a Trump video.
And contrary to what our audience might have expected, it was not Kim's fault.
Yeah, believe it or not, I wasn't actually even involved
in the offending segment.
the video that ended up finally being like the nail in the coffin. It was you two. I leave you two alone for a minute.
It was
and
Emily
this is what
Jashinsky.
Man, what a blast from the past. Some fun times with those folks. Now, more than 3 years later, I actually don't blame YouTube as much for this kind of thing, even though it was wrong and crazy, because we now know that this platform, as well as Twitter X, Facebook, all the rest, faced relentless pressure to censor speech that dissented from the perspective of the Biden administration. We didn't know it then, particularly on the subject of COVID and the 2020 election. It was censorship. It was jawboning, the term we use to describe government figures trying to push companies to take some action. And it was wrong. Now, of course, many in the mainstream media are suddenly very, very worried about jawboning. They are extremely concerned about what the Trump administration is doing in terms of pressuring private media companies to do exactly what the Biden administration did. Here was Jake Tapper, for instance, reacting to Jimmy Kimmel getting temporarily taken off the air.
All right, Jimmy Kimmel. He's a friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him. We know he's a good person. Obviously, this news is very exciting. But what was your original take on how this all went down starting last week?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Now, to be clear, I do agree that jawboning is a bad problem. I've been saying it for years. I do think the FCC should have just totally stayed out of the Kimmel issue. But let's not pretend this is the first time that this has ever happened. Thanks to pressure from the federal government when it was run by Democrats, social media giants engaged in vast censorship of you and of me. The shoe's on the other foot now, and that is wrong. But maybe more mainstream liberals should have taken notice when it was happening to us. I love the little stroll down memory lane. You can see that our set was completely different. Everything was totally different.
But it looks like a fun show with 3 people.
We had a lot of fun. So that was not usually the setup. Kim would do it remotely from California where she lived. But for that week, she was in town to visit. And actually, she
A special week where you
she
got deleted
planned
from
to
air.
come for the week. And then, like, she was, ready to board the flight or something. And they were like, we're actually going to be off for the next week. She was like, well, never mind. I'll come the week after.
Oh, my gosh. Okay,
fun times.
that's pretty crazy. Intensely on the flight or going to the flight. So I will say, I'm not even going to lie. Like, I was reading your radar earlier, and I'm like, you know what? You're right, right? This is
crazy.
It is. For you guys to get cut off air for a soundbite is not right. I do believe that social media is the wild, wild west. We understand that the FCC and its rules apply directly to broadcast channels in a different way than YouTube is monitored, or even cable or other ways that people get news. So I just think it's important to understand what's allowed, and what's not allowed according to these rules. Like perjury in court, we should always say that that's wrong and that's against the law, right? There's certain things that are not freedom of speech that are written down, but I think we have to follow it to the textbooks, and you can't be a hypocrite on either side. I call for the same thing from Republicans to not have been campaigning against cancel culture and then do this the same way Democrats in the weeds. I didn't know it went as far as to take the hill off the air. That's extreme.
It's
But I
crazy.
do think,
again, the difference
but
between the speaker and the platform.
So I would
is
just
what's
say,
not
but
being
the only reason
recognized.
why I have a little bit of hesitancy, and I don't want to say caveat for what I think is right, but when you talk about COVID, we were in a pandemic of, once in a lifetime where people were so jarred by information and so overwhelmed that it could lead to mass panic, which is also really problematic for leadership in any country. And so when people are spreading misinformation, and mind you, the CDC got it wrong. We agree on that plenty of times. But when people are just spreading any information, there was a little bit of a need to know, who is just taking something they read in a blog and who is actually telling you facts. And some people consume social media in a way that if somebody looks like they're an authority figure, then they're automatically right. And that just could be putting up a podcast set in your house. And people just take it as law. And then with the election, we saw that it actually caused, that sentiment caused people to revolt and try to, go into our Capitol and storm it.
To that,
so I just think that we have to be mindful of things that might directly incite mass chaos.
But I don't think, I think the attempts to suppress those sentiments can actually make them be held more powerfully and strongly by people, because you actually can't stop them from hearing about it. I mean, this was with the Hunter Biden New York Post story, right? It got taken off social media at the encouragement of law enforcement because they said this is a false story, don't listen to it. So they could suppress that story, but they couldn't suppress all the stories about this story being suppressed. So you call more attention to it. I think that's a lesson to Trump, honestly, as he goes forward with some of this Kimmel stuff and some of the, attacking New York Times, attacking the Wall Street Journal over the Epstein birthday card.
Right.
More people have heard about it because now you hear about the lawsuit. You can try to suppress the thing, but you actually call more attention to it. And that's why I think some of these efforts were
And I think
misguided.
when you back up and look at what Trump's doing and things that you named, also who's in position at certain companies, like his former ambassador now at CBS, or all his friends running most social media companies, Elon Musk, people that are cozy up to him, Mark Zuckerberg. These are all people that have sit next to him and okay, I'm going to say whatever you want now because I'm your friend. This causes, to me, an eyebrow raise, and everyone should be raising their eyebrows, because it's not just free and uncensored. If Elon Musk is programming Grok to say things that lean conservative.
Well, yeah, he owns Grok, so he can do that.
Right, but
That's different than, I don't want him having to program Grok because he thinks whoever the the legislators or the FCC or the president is going to break up the company or regulate the company because Grok is not programmed to the president's specifications. That's the harm.
I think we're going to talk about this a lot more with all the censorship coming from your party or your friends.
Not my party.
Your friends.
My friends, kind of, maybe. Republicans, next up, have condemned another alleged act of political violence. What we know about yesterday's shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. We'll be right back.